This one.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My little microphone thing here isn't working, but maybe we'll get Randy in here.
You can get that one.
There.
Okay. I would like to call today's meeting of the State of Nevada Board of Examiners to order for August 10th, 2021. If I could ask the clerk to take the roll, please.
Governor Sisolak,
Here.
Secretary of State Zagaski,
I'm here.
Attorney General Ford. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 2, public comment. This is the first time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item on today's agenda? Items on the agenda, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We'll do Las Vegas first.
Okay, step here.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, my name is Kim Blandino. I'm here to speak on the Lapina matter. I've looked at the documents. I only found out about this yesterday. Do I sit then?
Sure, you can either way.
Okay. Anyway, I just found out about this yesterday afternoon, so it was serendipitous. I know Frank Lapina was at Southern Desert back in the 1990s. And what an incredible person. It was easy for this guy to be bitter, but he obviously got better. This guy helped people from in prison. I was witness to that, even though he had his own legal travails and everything to go through. I've looked at the case files to some degree, not as much as I wish, but I will over the time. I am in a complete agreement that he's ordered this monies, but I don't think it's quite enough. And I don't think it goes quite far enough because, and by the way, I'm not representing Frank in any way. He has no idea I'm speaking here unless he's clairvoyant. I just found out about this yesterday, but God wanted me to come here and speak my mind, and that's what I'm doing. And so I think that the problem here is it doesn't address, the certificate of innocence doesn't address the absolute misconduct, malfeasance, and misfeasance that was done by the prosecutor's office. This isn't a case where it was honest mistakes and everything. This was a deliberate setup to take this guy and railroad him because they knew he could. I don't know where Mel Harmon is, the prosecutor in this case that did what he did, but I'm pretty sure that he's looking up and not down, unless he repented before he passed. But there has to be addressed somewhere the punitive damages or something. I know a certificate of innocence doesn't go that far. Maybe Frank can and his attorneys could address that, because to put this into perspective, 15, 20 years ago, you had no such statute, even less than that had gotten monies for like DeMarlo Berry. And then there was another person that got monies through this statute that allows for these payments to be made when there is a finding of innocence. Now, Frank had to wait all the way till he got to the Pardons Board. All his appeals, collateral relief that he applied for, the state and the federal, it failed. Gratefully that the Pardons Board looked at this and he had all the documentation to show that he was actually innocent. I think the state's doing right, but not quite far enough. And I think that there should be documented in here that there is some money that he gets because of punitive, that's sort of like punitive damages in a case, not just the recognition of the presumption of innocence. Maybe the state can approve this money, the Board of Examiners approve this money, and then maybe revisit that aspect. Maybe he can marshal the evidence to show that this was just something that should not ever happen again. And there are individuals that are being prosecuted to this day. To Steve Wolfson's credit, he has a review board, as this body well knows, that reviews wrongful convictions and everything. They have a unit, he established a unit to do that. And so I think that, you know, this, as much as Frank, the integrity of this man, he could have, I was there in prison with him in the 90s. And just after he refused that plea bargain, it would have let him out right there and then. But he wasn't going to plead to something that he did not do. the integrity that it takes to do that, to say, no, I'm not gonna plead to something, huh? No, I'm exempt, I'm sorry. I've got a doctor's note. Anyway, he was not gonna do that. That's integrity. That is a
Okay, I've got to
rare
wrap it
integrity.
up. You're well over your 3 minutes.
Yeah,
so we
okay. Well, I
your
appreciate that,
testimony.
Governor, and being allowed to
Thank
speak.
you.
Do
Okay.
you want me to go back here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment? Not down here, up north.
Not seeing anybody in Carson.
Excuse me. You've either got to put the mask on or move down to the end down there.
Here's my doctor's note. And on this end?
Yeah, that's great. I just need to keep you away from these other folks.
No problem.
Do we have anyone? I'm sorry, Susan, no?
We do not have anybody in Carson.
Yes, Oscar, please. Okay, moving on to item number 3. Could I get a motion regarding the minutes approval of the July 13th meeting?
Move for approval. This is Barbara Sagaski.
We have a motion for approval from Secretary Sagaski. Any discussion? All in favor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4, authorization for an emergency contract with a current and/or former state employee.
Good morning. Pursuant to subsection 4 of Nevada Revised Statute 333.705, an agency may contract with a former employee without first obtaining the Board of Examiners' approval if the term of the contract is for less than 4 months and the head of the using agency determines that an emergency exists. If the using agency contracts with an individual pursuant to this exception, they must submit a copy of the contract and a description of the emergency to the Board of Examiners, who shall review the contract and description of the emergency and notify the agency whether or not they would have approved the contract had it not been entered into under the emergency provision. This request is from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Child and Family Services. They are seeking a favorable recommendation from the board on their use of the emergency provisions to contract with a former employee. The division contracted through Reliable Healthcare Services of Southern Nevada for the period of July 9th, 2021 through November 9th, 2021 to enable the agency to meet higher staffing ratios required to adequately serve youth who require a higher level of care. Are there any questions on this item?
Do we have any questions on item number 4? Do I have a motion on item number 4?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval from Secretary Sagaski. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5.
Item number 5 contains 2 requests to contract with former employees pursuant to NRS 333.705 subsection 1. The first item is from the Department of Transportation to contract with a former employee to provide roadway construction inspector services for District 2 betterment projects on a part-time basis. The duration of this contract is expected to be 1.5 years. And the second item is from the Department of Administration Purchasing Division to contract with a former employee to perform uniform security guard duties for various agencies. This individual will be employed through Allied Universal Security on a full-time basis, and the duration of this request is through May of 2023. Are there any questions on these items?
Do we have any questions on either 5A and or 5B? Do I have a motion?
None here. Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval from General Ford. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 6, request for a recommendation of approval to the Interim Finance Committee for an allocation amount from the contingency account.
This item includes 2 requests for a positive recommendation to the Interim Finance Committee pursuant to NRS 353.268. The General Fund Interim Finance Contingency Account has an approximate balance of $24.2 million to cover unanticipated costs for the 21-23 biennium. If these items are approved, the remaining balance in the account will be approximately $24 million. The first request is from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Division of Water Resources, for an allocation of $250,000 to replenish the channel clearance activities as allowed under NRS 532.230. Are there any questions on this item?
Nope. Do we have any questions on item, that's 6A? Or both? You want us to do these together or separately, Susan?
I will leave that up to you.
Let's do them together.
Okay. The second request is from the State Controller's Office. This is for an allocation of $51,680 to fund a contractor and associated costs through June 30th of 2022 to assist with the reconciliation of bank statements related to the Department of Taxation's modified business tax refunds.
Okay, do we have any questions on items 6A and/or 6B?
I'm here. Move approval.
We're hearing and seeing none. We have motion for approval from General Ford. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 7, request for approval of payment from the statutory contingency account.
Item number 7 is a request for compensation for wrongful conviction from the statutory contingency account pursuant to NRS 41.950 and 41.970, which provides compensation and other properly related matters to certain persons who are wrongfully convicted. The statute requires the court to enter a certification of innocence and determine the proper amount of the award. A certificate of innocence and an order granting monetary relief were granted to Mr. Frank LaPena by the 8th Judicial District Court pursuant to NRS 41.950. The amount of the award is $1,980,900, which includes $1.5 million for wrongful conviction, $375,000 for his time on parole, $25,000 for attorney fees, $12,500 for Medicare premiums, and $68,400 for housing assistance. The current balance in the statutory contingency account is $14.3 million. If this item is approved, the remaining amount would be approximately $12.3 million. Are there any questions on this item?
Do we have any questions on this item? Do I have a motion?
I move approval, and I'd like to also add that I've always said, as I've said frequently, that justice isn't always arrest and conviction. Sometimes it's exoneration and compensation, and I'm proud to see some justice being delivered here. So I move approval.
Thank you. I've got one question. Susan, these amounts are figured by statute or the court, or how?
The amount for wrongful conviction and the years on parole and the attorney fees are all dictated in statute, and the others are negotiated, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 8, request for the allocation and disbursements of funds for salary adjustments.
So sections 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Assembly Bill 542 from the 2019 legislative session appropriated salary adjustment funds to the Board of Examiners to cover the 3% cost of living adjustments that were effective July 1st of 2019. These funds were not included in agency budgets, and an agency whose actual salaries exceed their budgeted amount due to these COLAs is allowed to request salary adjustment dollars from the Board of Examiners. This item includes 2 requests for funds. The first is the Department of Agriculture in the amount of $7,517 in general funds for 2 different budget accounts, the Plant Health and Quarantine Services account and the Livestock Enforcement account. And it also includes $10,441,690 in general funds for various institutions and accounts within the system of higher education. The balance in the general fund salary account is currently $30.7 million. If these requests are approved, the balance would be approximately $20.3 million. Are there questions on these items?
No, I have none. Thank you. Do we have any questions on item number 8?
Governor, this is Barbara Sagowski.
Go ahead, Secretary.
Thank you. I want to, first of all, thank your staff for answering all the questions, as I know you always like to say the same thing. But this was one of the agencies that we had some issues with, NINCHE, trying to figure out why it was requested and why the request was so out of line with all the others that we had. But I want to thank staff for their response and promptness getting back to us. So thank you. I don't know that I totally agree with all of it, but I can't find any reasons not to support it. So thank you.
Thank you, Secretary, and I appreciate what staff and Susan did explaining this to me. This is one we held over from the last meeting. I, like you, am not totally convinced that all of this is appropriate, but I guess it's, you know, what it is. It's under statute. It just seems like higher ed keeps coming back and getting more money after their budgets are established, and there doesn't seem to be control on it. So I'll leave it at that. Do we have a motion on item number 8? Okay, we have a motion for approval. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 9, approval of proposed leases.
There is one lease in agenda item 9 for approval by the board today. Are there any questions on this item?
Nope, I got that one again. Thank you, Susan. Do I have a motion on item number 9?
Move approval.
We have a motion for approval. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Number 10, approval of proposed contracts.
There are 43 contracts in agenda item 10 today for approval by the board. Are there any questions on any of these items?
Nope, I appreciate it. Do we have any questions or a motion?
Move approval.
We have a motion for approval on item number 10. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Item number 11, approval of proposed work plans. We have one.
There is one work plan under agenda item 11 for approval by the board. Are there any questions on this item?
Nope. I appreciate your explanations in my briefing. Do we have a motion on item number 11?
Move approval.
We have a motion for approval from General Ford. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 12, approval of proposed master service agreements.
There are 5 master service agreements in agenda item 12 for approval today. Are there any questions on any of these items?
No. Do we have a motion on item number 12?
Move approval.
We have a motion for item number 12 from General Ford for approval. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great. Item number 13 is an information item. Do we have any questions on item number 13?
There are 49 contracts that were approved under the 50,000 threshold between June 22nd, 2021 and July 20th of 2021. So any questions here?
Nope, I don't think so. Item number 14, information item reports.
Okay, we have 2 informational reports under item 14 today. The first is a report on the available balances in the various contingency accounts that are managed by the Board of Examiners or the Interim Finance Committee. And these balances are as of July 19th of 2021. A number of these accounts were replenished through Assembly Bill 464 of the 2021 legislative session and are intended to cover various contingencies through the 21-23 biennium or through June 30th of 2023. And I would be happy to answer any questions on this item that you may have.
I appreciate it. Do we have any questions on item number 14? Okay, that concludes that portion of the agenda. Item number 15 is public comment.
Oh, we have
This
one
is-
more under item 14. There's a second informational report there from the
Oh,
Department of
sorry.
Motor Vehicles
I don't want to miss that one. Okay.
on the voluntary contributions collected by counties pursuant to NRS 482.480. This is known as the Complete Streets Program. And this report is for the period of April 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2021. During the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2021, the department collected $99,882 compared to $102,102 in the same period last year. And I would just note that when we post the final agenda, this document will be corrected as there was an error on the second page at the top for the fourth quarter, which indicates that 2020 was $90,594. The actual amount is $102,102. And then the total amount collected for fiscal year 21 was $418,880 compared to $355,880 in fiscal year 21, or 20, fiscal year 20. And that concludes my report on that item.
Great. Any questions? Okay, moving on to item number 15, public comment. This is the second time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments be limited to 3 minutes.
Am I correct that I can address items off the agenda?
Yes,
Okay, the reason I.
you've got to identify yourself for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Kim Blandino again, I was here speaking at first public comment. The reason I was actually looked this up, I was trying to get information. I got the oaths of office for all the different judges, save a few, from the Public Information Office for the Secretary of State, so Barbara Sagaski would like to keep her ears open on this one. Anyway, they said they don't have any of the bonds for these judges. By statute, judges are required to have bonds, and it appears to me that these statutes are not being complied with. I know it's not happening with the City of Las Vegas judges. They're saying that they're exempt. Now, if this statute is being ignored and the law being violated, because the Board of Examiners has the power, if let's say a judge was perpetually drunk or there other kind of misfeasance or malfeasance on the bench, the Board of Examiners could revoke the bond and the judge can't sit. No different than if the judge says, you know what, this oath, I don't want to follow this oath to the two constitutions and the government of the United States and the state of Nevada, so I don't want to do that, I'm revoking my oath, and they can just say, well, you're not sitting as a judge because you're not going to sit as a judge without the oath signed and approved before God, as I might add. Now, the bond has to work the same way. Now, if these judges are trying to say that they're exempt from the bond, or somehow because all these years it hadn't been followed. So at present, the public information officer, Jennifer, I can't remember her last name, said they don't have copies of the bonds. And when I called yesterday, I was quite distressed to find out when I called the Board of Examiners, there was really no one to talk to. They said, well, it's just the governor and this and that, but there's a statutory provision still in existence that those bonds can be revoked, and then that office has to be vacated by the person whose bond has been revoked. Now, I hope you can appreciate the magnitude of this, because this is just another check and balance in the system. So if the public says they see this judge walking around drunk, even on his off hours, public drunkenness, and that would reflect on his bench, then he's unfit to do the office. Now, you could go to the Commission on Judicial Discipline, you could go to the legislature and do impeachment, which is a rare thing, as we all know in this state. Even the worst of some of these Clark County judges have had to be removed. They had to go to the Commission on Judicial Discipline because the legislature is very reticent to act. So this bonding issue is just another check and balance that was put in by the wise founders and the followers of this constitutional republic that we have, federalism and all that kind of thing. And so I need to get that information, and it says that the bonds have to be set for these public officers, legislative, judicial, and executive. So also in this regard, I hadn't planned on saying this, but God never knows. I mean, I never know what God might put in my mouth to speak. So I'd like to see the bond for the governor himself, as well as the Secretary of State and Attorney General Ford as well. So I'd like to get copies of those documents. The great thing about this government that we have, by the people, for the people, and of the people, is that we want transparency. And the great thing is I'm allowed to comment. I mean, I'm just walking off the street and I'm allowed to comment onto these issues. And I really appreciate the way the board has functioned here. It's been very professional and been very adroit at what has happened, and the way it's moved so smoothly and everything. I have no complaints with that. But the substance of the law has to be followed as well as the procedure of the law. And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that we have these protections in there, and it's a law of God, and the nature that he set up is what humans don't use, they lose.
I appreciate your comments, and we'll take them into the record here. Do we have any other public comment in Carson City? Thank you.
I do not see any.
No more in Las Vegas? Hearing, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you. Bye.